Since a young age, fantasy stories have always inspired me. Because of this love, a lot of my old characters are fantasy themed. But there's one problem. They aren't good. So this is the story of fixing two of my worst fantasy character designs from my old story, Talismanic. Hey, I'm Gigi, and I create OC stories and share my process along the way. Now, let's get into it. Before I design these characters, I need to tell you guys about the story Talismanic. The story begins with the game Talismanic, a web-based RPG game that has become quite popular in this character world, if you will. Not only for the characters, but also the mystery surrounding the anonymous game dev, DM. Our fantasy journey truly begins when we follow the story of Varian, the villain of the game Talismanic, who eventually finds himself self-aware within the game via a glitch that occurs within the system. And this leads things to go a bit haywire. So much so that eventually 5 of the Talismanic characters find themselves being taken from the game at different times and landing in the real world. The journey continues as each character learns what it means to become real, some deciding to investigate how to return to the game world, and others on their origin story, linked directly to the game dev, DM. Will the characters sort out their differences and return to the game that is now unplayable, or will they continue their lives within the real world? Things obviously won't be so easy because they may not be the only ones emerging from this game. This is Sebastian, or well, a placeholder for now since these characters don't actually have designs yet. Anyway, Sebastian is the main character of the game Talismanic and who the player impersonates when playing. This is his original character bio from my notes on this story. Your everyday main character and knight has main character moments like monologues, etc., does not glitch. While this is a very sad explanation of a character, it gives us some idea on what his new story should be. From this original story write-up, I want to maintain the idea that he's a very obvious looking main character, so bright colors that aren't common can definitely be used. I also find the monologues could be funny to maintain when he comes to the real world. The does not glitch part is referring to the idea of the characters becoming self-aware and learning that they exist within the game. I think this makes the story more interesting as the protagonist and supposed hero can't be trusted to protect them anymore, forcing the other characters to have to step up for themselves. Now that we have what we want to keep, let's decide on what we want to adjust/add. We need a backstory for Sebastian to learn why he needs to be leveled up again if he's already a knight. I also need to decide on how he becomes the hero of this village. Just being a knight doesn't give you that power. Lastly, I need to decide on his personality. Now that I have a good base understanding, it's time to get into designing. When beginning most of my designs, I like to get a lot of references just to give me some kind of direction. For this design, I actually had a lot of issues with his appearance. When this happens, I create a very large cluster of image references that I can use. You can use Pinterest for this, I've used it a lot. However, because I was struggling so much, I've decided to use 𝒕𝒕🔪. Within 𝒕𝒕🔪, I'm able to crop images that are very large and maybe I don't want to use the whole thing. And I can also note on the images to remind myself what I like most about it. You can even draw in this thing, man. By the way, this video is not sponsored. Now that I have a collection of images, it's time to design. Even with all of those references, I still struggled drawing Sebastian's outfit. For some reason, I just couldn't decide on the balance between armor and just fantasy clothing, because I know that I didn't want him to be full fantasy. I wanted him to have some kind of armor, but at the same time, I just really did not enjoy drawing the armor. Either way, I did not want a ton of armor like most knight designs because of his new story, which I'll get to later. What helped me the most was actually drawing a smaller version of his design to figure out a better silhouette, which is technically like thumbnailing, which you guys know I am obsessed with. You should always thumbnail, chat, okay? This also helps me come up with colors, making sure 2 similar colors don't sit next to each other. Once I had that and the details down, I began drawing him on a larger scale. I kept his face a bit rounder to give him a softer appearance, and longer hair to show off the bright red color I give him later. I voted on rounder eyes to give him the optimistic and outgoing personality archetype. Hey, I don't make the anime rules, okay? For line art, I actually did not use vector layers. I know. I always say use vector layers for line art, but since this is a reference sheet, I'm not worried since I don't plan on scaling it a lot, except for my thumbnail. Now that it's time for line art, let's get into Sebastian's new story. Sebastian comes from a middle-class family within the town of the Kingdom of 𝑻𝒊𝒏𝒆. Growing up, he loved being outdoors and helping other people. In his teenage years, he eventually begins training to become a knight and meets Varian, who quickly becomes his best friend, despite Varian's reluctance. The two become knights when the kingdom begins to struggle, as a fire mage seizes the city with magma soldiers. Sebastian, however, takes it upon himself to take back the kingdom with Varian's help. Together, they were able to finally defeat the mage. As peace spreads across the kingdom once more, the kingdom is returned to its rightful owners, the king and queen. Since the invasion, the kingdom produced 5 magical talisman, each representing a different ability. Together, they all protect the kingdom from harm, creating a large shield surrounding the kingdom. With Sebastian's accomplishments, he is quickly recognized as the hero of the kingdom, and after ensuring everyone is safe once more, he decides to retire from being a knight at 23, choosing to help out within the village, accomplishing quests from townsfolk and more. But things begin to change when his best friend Varian suddenly goes missing, along with one of the 5 talisman protecting the kingdom. It's now time for you guys to meet Varian. He is the protagonist and villain of the story and game Talismanic. Let me show you his very depressing character bio. Varian is the antagonist disguised as the best friend of the main character. He stole one of the talisman, wants to win for once. Yeah, so that's all I wrote.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Anyways, let's get to our list set. I will be keeping the unexpected antagonist aspect of the game. As mentioned before, he does steal one of the talisman. The purpose of wanting to win is going to be tied with his desire to be powerful and recognized since he was previously ignored. I will need to define his appearance as somewhat of an outcast, relating to the idea of him wanting to be recognized and currently being ignored. I need to decide on his backstory and why he may act the way he does. So let's get started. For Varian's references, I used a lot of the same ideas I used for Sebastian, but I made them a lot darker and moodier, if that makes sense. Now that I have my references, I actually went straight into designing the villain outfit because I loved it so much and had so many ideas, and then I will go back and start doing the actual knight outfit. Varian has more sharper features since he has a blunt and harsher personality in this new story, making it a lot less likely to open up to new people. I chose a lot of dull colors for his design since I wanted him to seem less approachable. I originally planned on red eyes, but decided he looked too vampire-like, so I aimed for this kind of like goldish color, which really didn't change much now that I think about it. For some reason, I struggled a lot with the armor of these characters. The rendering was just not rendering. I don't know why, but that's definitely something that I'm gonna have to work on for the future. So for now, I decided to go simple and just work with the lighting the best I could. Let me tell you about his new story. Varian comes from the poorer side of the Kingdom of 𝑻𝒊𝒏𝒆. Within the slums residing near the river, growing up with just his mother who worked as a seamstress, he often found himself home alone, with books being his only form of entertainment. Growing up with a smaller frame and poor background, he often got picked on by the other kids of the village. With the collection of bad interactions, in his later years, he begins focusing more on reading rather than interaction for most of his time. To help with money for him and his mom as she got older, he ends up joining the Knights. During his time, he meets Sebastian, who seems to take a great liking to him. More than he truly expected, to be honest. At least, at first. After the fall of the mage, Varian stands aside as Sebastian obtains all of the recognition. Even after his retirement, Varian still seemed to walk in his shadows. And eventually, he snaps. Finding himself in the library once more for comfort yet again, he finds a book with more information on the 5 talisman protecting the kingdom. He learns that together, if used by one person, they can grant immense power to that of a god. Now, the game of Talismanic follows the notion that Varian is on his way to collect all of the talisman. And to win, you must defeat him before he obtains the final one. Of course, the true story of Talismanic begins when Varian glitches out of his code, and the game restarts with Varian gaining the ability to see what the players can, along with the final talisman he's been missing every single time, now located amongst his belongings. Before we get to the final reveal, I'd like to thank you guys for watching so far. In the comments, share who your favorite is and why, and what your favorite part of the story is. If you like this video, remember to give it a like and subscribe to help support the channel so I can make more characters and stories. Now it's finally time for the reveal. Thank you guys for following along with this video. I know it took some time to come out due to some medical issues. Therefore, some videos may require 2 weeks to complete, like this one, instead of 1. If you like this video, subscribe to support the channel and give this video a like so that I can keep creating more. If you're interested, check out the description so that you can find me elsewhere on other socials. You can probably find some behind the scenes of me working on these videos, as well as the entire process from start to finish of when I draw these characters live. Additionally, you can even find some extra illustrations of these characters interacting with one another if you'd like to see more about their stories. Now, without further ado, have a great rest of your morning, evening, afternoon, whatever time it is for you, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!